Hi everybody, Andy Murray here for WhatCulture Wrestling.
Joined of course by Adam Cleary from WhatCulture Wrestling, and coming up for you today, after you've taken your hand off your face and remember to have a big drink of water, we have news on the next WWE draft, as well as which 4 big WWE legends made Clash of Champions incredible for your dad.
I'm going to talk about Angel Garza, who was unfortunately injured at last night's pay-per-view, but before that, Roman Reigns. This is the news. Let's kick things off by talking about the big dog, the tribal chief, if you will. Debuted a new look at Clash Champions last night. Well, kind of. He took his top off, and it was very nice. Because he's a ripped man. You know, why you been hiding that torso under that flak jacket all these years, Roman? So this came on the back of last week. There was like a Zoom call he heard with fans on behalf of, I believe it was Mania Club, where he was saying, you will see me debut kind of a new look at Clash Champions. I'll be wrestling with my top off, brother. And he came out in fair play, no flak jacket, no wreck everyone and leave t-shirt. New look for the big dog with his new attitude and everything else. Also on that Zoom call, it's worth pointing out as well that he has promised a new entrance music at some point. The quote he said there was, when more drastic things happen in his current storyline. So 6 years after splitting the Shield, it looks like Roman is finally getting a new aesthetic. I think a lot of people would say this is overdue. Loads and loads of folks have been like, yeah, I like Roman, but why is he still dressed like the Shield and why has he got the music? I think the music's pretty badass, and I don't know if he should ever change it personally. But Adam Cleary, what do you think of this?
I'm not one of these people who was rushing to see Roman Reigns change his gimmick and tear up like 4 or 5 years of incredible, consistent work. In my opinion, the man has genuinely the easiest WWE entrance theme to apply appropriate lyrics to if you ever wanted. Do you know the Roman Reigns song, Andy Murray?
I've heard it before.
Roman Reigns, the guy with the biggest pecs. Roman Reigns, the guy who has lots of sex. But I am very glad that the flak jacket is going, because that always felt a bit weird to me. It's like letting a UFC fighter go in there with like one of those wobbly head things you practice boxing in, or just like loads and loads of bubble wrap. It felt like it gave him extra protection, but it's probably hard to argue at this phase that despite we are now approaching October 2020, Roman Reigns has probably had the best 2020 of anybody on the men's roster, despite missing 5 months of it, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, I think his past 4 weeks have been better than a lot of people's 9 months. He's been, that's not like an insult to anyone else. He's just great. He's been awesome. He's been phenomenal since he turned heel, and another great night for him last night with the Jey Uso match.
And speaking of a great night last night, it was as well for 4 WWE legends who finally got to add a little juicy appearance fee to those $1 million a year Legends contract, all taking place in isolation in the Drew McIntyre Randy Orton ambulance match, which we fellow Bretts are pleased to report Drew McIntyre did retain. Sorry for any spoilers, but why are you on the internet if you haven't seen it yet? Anyway, that match got a little bit out of control, and we saw appearances from 4 faces of yesteryear, even though there is no yesteryear in WWE because the past never dies. First of all, the Big Show returned for his 485th heel/face turn. He decked Randy Orton, and Christian appeared backstage. He decked Randy Orton, and the biggest pop of the night, of course, was for Shawn Michaels appearing on top of the ambulance to sweet chin music Randy Orton, and in the process, obviously, deck him by throwing him off the ambulance. Then at the end, Ric Flair gave us the "Where to Stephanie" moment we've been missing for about 20 years. He drove Randy Orton away. Now, this match was brutal, absolutely brutal, and it made it, I don't know, stuck between 2 instant classics in the shape of Bayley, Asuka and Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. It was in a bit of an odd position, but this definitely gave it something different, something more than we got in the SummerSlam encounter. However, Andy Murray, my question to you, a more learned, cerebral, bald colleague, is if you need 4 old men to help you beat the heel, are you really a face?
There is that aspect of it for sure, but I think that's certainly a worthy complaint that Drew McIntyre shouldn't need 4 old dads to beat Randy Orton, who he's already beaten, of course. But I think, it's a nice, neat little way to kind of put a bow on top of the little storyline of Randy Orton beating up all the dads. He put all these guys on the shelf over the past few months. I think sometimes maybe we don't have to, overthink like a lot of people want to do straight away with every single thing in wrestling. Does it make Drew look particularly weak? I don't necessarily think so. Could he have looked stronger if he just beaten up Randy Orton and won? Absolutely. But hey, man, look, we got a really cool shot of Shawn Michaels just gently shoving Randy Orton off the top of the ambulance, like, see you later. Like, there was some good stuff in there, man. So, like, I take the complaints on board. I don't care about them personally. I thought it was just, hey, there's my dad, there's my other dad, there's my granddad. It's all right.
There's Ric Flair.
Yeah, great granddad. Speaking of things that aren't all right, Angel Garza appeared to hurt himself.
Great link, that.
Just
Great
stupendous. I'm like Zelda, mate. He appeared to hurt himself or get hurt at Clash of Champions last night. It was him, Angel Garza and Andrade against the Street Profits for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Garza was seen laboring on the mat after taking a knee strike. He hobbled out to a tag and Andrade finished the match. PW Insider came through with a very quick report saying that Garza was being examined by the medics backstage. We got the X at ringside, of course. The referee threw that up, and trainers and medical staff were looking at him after the bell. PW Insider came through with another report shortly after that, saying that a further examination will still be going down. We don't know the true extent of everything yet. However, it's believed that the injury isn't quite as bad as first thought, and it relates to Garza's hip rather than his quad, which was originally speculated. Now, this came just before a really weird finish in this match, where Angelo Dawkins hit Andrade with a slam. Andrade kicked out at 2, and the referee went, "Ring the bell!" It's a very strange thing, but you wonder if maybe that had anything to do with the injury. Maybe wires got crossed, people got flustered. No reports on that. It's just me speculating. But I hope Angel Garza's not out for too long, man. He's a very talented guy, and you don't wish injuries on anyone.
No, first and foremost, obviously we wish Angel Garza well. Hope this isn't serious. Hope it's not as bad as it perhaps looked at the time. Big fan of Angel Garza personally from his time in NXT. Glad to see him still doing the Bucks Fizz thing on the main roster. But I just want to say, right, that finish, Andy, and this is something that is a hill I am willing to die on in pro wrestling. Do you know when you get a guest referee spot and it's a heel referee and he's constantly trying to swing the match in the heel's favour by fast counting, by doing this, by doing that? Does stuff like this not make a mockery of that? Because all he has to do as the referee is just tell him to ring the bell, and that's the match over. He hasn't got to do one. Oh, their face is kicked out. The referee and the heel, they can't believe it. They're trying to cheat. All he's got to do is say he didn't. Just ring the bell. That was it. Shoulders down.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
Because it happens. It happens all the time in real life.
He could theoretically do it at the opening bell and go, "Oh, it's over. He called me a penis. Disqualification." I
always go back to this. Right after Stephanie McMahon turned heel on Test, she got him disqualified in a match by just telling the referee he was using a closed fist, and the referee had to ring the bell, and that was it. And then she just walked away, and I was like, that is the most genius bit of heel maneuvering I've ever seen. Not a distraction. Didn't get involved. Didn't put herself in harm's way. Just went, technically you're not allowed to do that, and that was the end of the match, and he lost.
Yeah. Simple, right? Get VAR on there. That'll work wonders for this sport as it has done the other sport.
Yes, good morning, Spurs fans. Anyway, in other shocking catastrophes, a WWE draft is on the horizon. It's outside, it's looming in the bushes, it's waiting for you to turn your back while you lock your door. It is coming, and it is coming between the 9th and the 12th of October. Now, Andy Murray, you'll be aware of this, was supposed to happen in August, but there was some extenuating geopolitical, health and social circumstances, which means that pretty much every major plan they had has been put back. But WWE, quite happy to push on and ignore all the stats, thinks now is probably the best time to do it. So they're going to be reorganising their brands. We're going to see the control room again, we suspect. We might even see the robot, which I'm going to hold my hands up here. I had memory hold. I remember the control rooms. I remember everything they were doing. I had forgotten about that goddamn robot the last time they did this, so maybe we will see that again. We're going to be getting some stars moving from Raw over to SmackDown, SmackDown over to Raw. At the time of recording, no information about whether or not this is going to include NXT, but you would imagine there would probably be the odd call-up here and there, purely because it's a good excuse to do that. Now, before I ask for your hot takes on this, Andy, I went back and I looked, and do you realise that the wildcard rule was only about 16 months ago?
Gee whiz, God. I mean, the period of that thing existing felt like about 5 years, and the period since then is similar. It's
only been about a year since it stopped existing.
Yeah, like, oh god, what a weird period. Do you remember last year when they just started having all those random 2 out of 3 fall matches on Raw as well because they didn't want to have What a weird thing. They've done so much weird crap over the past few years, but maybe the draft will be cool. Yeah.
Better question, Andy. Do you remember last year?
I barely remember last week, let alone last year. Let's take it over to the Twitter questions.
Oh, these are always death. They're going to get me coffee.
Here we go. First one comes from Charlie Williamson, who asks, do you like the idea of a triple threat match with The Fiend, Jey Uso, and Roman Reigns?
No, Charlie, no, you can't do this, no. Right, look. Right, yes, Roman Reigns has come back and he's been brilliant. Yes, the feud with his cousin, with his familia has been absolutely fantastic. Yes, don't start doing this to yourself again. Every time somebody comes back, every time something good happens, we start booking a million different fantasy ways they could go with this. Just hope they keep doing what they're doing for a little while because that's been enjoyable. As soon as they start trying to bring in the Oogie Boogie Man, it's all going to go off the rails, man. Just calm down, go watch the match back again, look forward to his next appearance on television. Just live in the moment. Don't get carried away with this stuff, man. It'll only hurt you.
And speaking of the Oogie Boogie Man, if they booked this match on the December pay-per-view, it would truly be a nightmare before Christmas.
They're going to do that as well, aren't they?
Oh, Jesus, that's definitely what they're going to do. I'm not totally averse to it, but Babyface Fiend is very weird, and I don't need that in my life. Let's go over to Richard Scott Stout, who asks, hey, you want some more fantasy booking? Here's the ultimate one. With Roman Reigns proclaiming himself the tribal chief and head of the family, will this lead to Roman versus The Rock, tribal chief versus tribal elder, as a passing the torch match? I want to go one step further with this question, Adam Cleary. You've seen the wonderful 5-star classic Hobbs and Shaw.
I gave it 5 stars. The official WhatCulture review is 5 stars, and it's my review.
There you go, baby. Brand endorsed. If anyone in WhatCulture disagrees with that review, they are wrong. But you remember the big fight on Samoa on the island? We had the guys dressing up in traditional garb. Are we getting that as a cinematic match on the back of what has happened at WrestleMania 37?
Genuinely, the way WWE works now, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they just bought like the 20 minutes of footage required for that and cut it so it was just The Rock and Roman Reigns having that fight. The thing is, right, not getting carried away and doing all these fantasy booking scenarios needs to be a rule in everybody's mind. However, Andy, as you're well aware, every rule needs an exception. And if this exception is, you can fantasy book nothing unless it somehow leads to The Rock at WrestleMania, then I'm alright with that. I would love to see Roman Reigns versus The Rock. It's always felt like it was just a good idea for the sake of it up until now, that there was like some story you could craft into it. I'd once had the idea that Roman could just dominate SmackDown and call it his show, and then The Rock goes, brother, it's not my show. But genuinely, this tribal chief thing, the fact he's gone through one of the Usos, could possibly go through another one. Possibly, I don't know, have him crush Nia Jax. Nobody's really going to complain. Like, there could be a genuine story that's worth telling there that isn't just, it's The Rock. So, yeah, let's do it.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it makes all the sense in the world from both a business and creative standpoint. However, I would be very reluctant putting Roman Reigns in the ring with Nia Jax because I don't want to see Roman Reigns get injured before WrestleMania 37. Our final question today comes from Megan Roxburgh, who asks, with the draft coming up, which wrestlers beside champions do you think needs to change brands, and is there anyone you hope doesn't change brands? So my one for someone who needs to change brands is a bit boring, but I think it's probably Mandy Rose or Otis.
Oh, that's what I was going to say! That's the only person who needs to change is Otis.
There we go. What's the point? What's the point of them kind of existing at the moment, right? I mean, put them back together. It'll be a nice, lovely moment. However, I would argue probably that the one who needs to change out of the two of them is Otis, right? Because he's got the briefcase. He's not cashing that thing in on Roman Reigns. No chance in hell. That's not happening. The idea of it happening is a joke. Like, Roman is so far above that level now. It's just inconceivable. As far as people I wouldn't want to, Sonya Deville might be a good one if you want to renew the Mandy feud, perhaps. But someone I wouldn't want to see change brands. How about Braun for changing as well? He needs something new. I should have probably thought of an answer for this, but probably Shayna Baszler for me. I think she should stay on Raw. I think there's still a lot of unexplored territory with the Asuka feud.
Genuinely, for the life of me, Andy, the way I thought this question would go was you would have some really interesting, like, oh, well, if you look at the last 3 months of this storyline could lead to the next 3 months of that storyline, very sensible decisions. And I would just sit there and go, Otis.
Well,
just needs to be Otis, mate. He needs to see his last again because it'll make him happy. But no, that is clearly the most obvious one they can do. There's a part of me that just thinks, would it shake it up a bit if you moved one of Sasha and Bayley? Just so you can have a little bit of separation and get them back together in the Royal Rumble or something like that. Just something to just cool their jets a little bit so you can have a proper big WrestleMania blow-off out of it. But, I don't know, 2 weeks' time, you'd have to wrap a few things up between now and then. I don't think it's going to work. I think genuinely it's Otis, Braun, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. 2 changes in the upcoming draft. That's all you're getting. You heard it here first. You can now go over to Twitter and tell us how wrong we are at WhatCulture WWE. Everything else, you can find Adam Cleary on Twitter as well.
At Adam Cleary, CLERY, and I was 100% serious about taking your hand off your face and having a big drink of water.
Absolutely, 100%. You can find me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. The H today stands for Happy Birthday, Adam Nicholas.
Oh, well done.
Who also shares his birthday with his favourite wrestler of all time, or so he tells me every time I speak to him, Steve Blackman. Famous for having black trousers, a kendo stick, and falling off the thing with Shane McMahon, and head cheese. Yep, bye.